Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Whistle Talk. Today I got with me who I personally have nicknamed myself Mr. Worldwide, Steve Matarante, and we'll let Steve introduce himself in a moment. But before we do that, again, if you're enjoying the show, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Find us on YouTube. Go to Mike D, the referee. We're all over the place. Let that algorithm pick us up and push us out so that we're getting the exposure for our officiating crews all over the country, all over the world now. So hit that like and subscribe button. All right. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me today Steve Matarante. Steve is coming to us from, I've gone 3 episodes in a row. We got another local guy. He's living in New Jersey. But I refer to him when I'm talking about him as Mr. Worldwide because Steve's coming to us right now, just finished up officiating in the European Football League. But Steve's got a lot of background in this sport, and I'm going to kind of pass it over to him to introduce himself because his resume is, well, it's quite large and impressive. So, Steve, thank you for joining us today.
Happy to be here. Thanks a lot for having me, Mike. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've been officiating quite some time. So I've been blessed with a lot of unique opportunities. So thank you.
Yeah, so Steve's just getting back here to New Jersey from Milan, Italy. Am I correct in saying that? The last game
That
was
is
in
correct.
Italy.
Yes, that is correct.
So so
Yeah.
so what's the European League like?
So it's it's sort of a continuation of the old NFL Europe.
Okay.
The teams that were in there, maintain themselves, and they really sort of started up the league again as an international league, as a European league, multiple countries 4 years ago. Obviously, the teams that were playing in the old NFL Europe, like the Frankfurt Galaxy, the Rhine Fire. They played in their country leagues, and each country has their own league too. It's very interesting. I felt like very sheltered because I didn't realize how much football is played around the world, especially in Europe, and football officials from all over. It was really an interesting experience. But they have Germany has their own league, Finland has their own league, Norway has their own league. Italy has their own league. There's a lot of leagues for anybody who wants to play football. A lot of club stuff, and then they came back with this European league, and 17 teams represented in 9 countries. Very interesting. Very interesting.
That, that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. So now back over now that you're back home here in the States, Steve's background, he's officiated in the Big Ten, the ACC, and most recently now the Big 12 Conference.
That's
Yep.
correct. I got my start. You come up through the ranks, and it's funny the further you progress, and you start to meet officials. You're working with officials that are broadening the scope of the country. And I learned a lot as I was coming up that as you're working with local officials in high school, then Division 2, 3, and then you start to branch out, got into the CIP, and then now you're working with the Eastern Seaboard officials, and then my first foray into the FBS was the old Big East, which is has obviously now not around, but it's morphed into the American Conference, and now you start working with people from all over the Mid Atlantic, the South, even into the Midwest, and you realize that the opportunities we have locally are tremendous. I mean, we have a lot of different leagues in a lot of different levels to grow. In this particular area, we're really blessed, but it's expanding, and obviously in college football, it's just healthy as it's ever been. I mean, there's just so much passion for it and so much, so many broadcasts of games and stuff. So it's a tremendous profession to be a part of. And
That's
then
awesome. That's
obviously,
awesome.
like you mentioned, and this year will be my first year in the Big 12. So I
Oh,
haven't worked a game yet. This weekend I'll be doing my first scrimmage at Baylor, and then we start up.
oh, very nice. Oh, Baylor in July, huh? Or August, I should say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's going to be very hot. I think the forecast is 103 degrees. So, but yeah, but it's a great opportunity to get together with the crew who I just met at our clinic at the end of July, and get to know each other on the field now. And so it's a great opportunity. We'll be using our O2Os, and they're running it like a game. So it's a great opportunity.
Oh, awesome. So is it for with the college game, is that more of an inter squad type of game, like a green and gold type thing with Baylor, or is it a
Yeah.
true scrimmage with another team?
No, it'll be all Baylor. They
Okay.
have most of these FBS schools have 125, 130 players, so they got plenty of depth to run a lot of plays and a lot of different people in and out.
That's good stuff.
Yeah,
So now I'm sitting here talking to you, and this is the first time that Steve and I have talked. You could say face to face that we're seeing each other on camera. Tell our listeners a little bit about that hat you got on there. It's a pretty impressive hat.
oh, yeah, that's just because it was a bad hair day. Um,
No, I don't have to worry about that.
yeah, well, this is just another of those unique opportunities that I've been blessed with. It's the playoff championship, the CFP hat that I got to work in 2022, which was just an amazing experience. A lot of officials, my peers, have gotten some of that experience over the last several years. While I was in the ACC, the ACC staff was assigned that championship game 3 years in a row, 22, 23, and just recently 24. And when I say 24, I mean January of 24. It was the
Yep.
23 season, the 22 season, and the 21 season. But yeah, so ACC had a 3 year run on it. And so it was just an incredible opportunity. Some interesting stuff we could talk about later in that game. In my particular game, two officials ended up in the NFL shortly after that game. So great opportunity for them to showcase themselves, and it created a whole another chapter of their career.
Now, I got a quick question for you. When you're talking about the conference was assigned that championship game. If I remember correctly, that was Alabama Georgia that year. Am I right in
That's
saying
correct.
that?
That's correct.
So so you had two SEC schools that happened to make it into the championship that year. Would an SEC conference crew get assigned to that? Is it predetermined before the playoffs begin, so that it's just random that all of a sudden it happened to be an SEC crew and now you have two SEC teams in there?
Yeah, actually, if you're in the playoff, if you're in the playoffs, you will not be, one of your schools, I should say, is in the playoffs of the league you work. You will not be assigned the championship game.
Okay.
They had no idea it would be two SEC schools because you also had who was in
Ohio State, I think, that year.
I believe that's correct, and was it Michigan? No, it wasn't Michigan. It was I can't remember who the fourth school was, but anyway, so once one of your teams are in the playoffs, you're not eliminated from the semifinals per se, but you're eliminated from the final because they do not want you working a game with one of your teams from your league in the game. Yeah, you could argue SEC, maybe put an SEC crew in, but these are predetermined long before then. There's a lot of
Yep.
coordination that goes into it with the NCAA and the bowl committees as far as travel and preparation and all that stuff. So these are assigned. Now it's going to change with the 12 team playoff. It's going to change, and it's not really totally defined yet, but the situation is going to be different in that I think each conference is going to pick one or two playoff crews, and they will continue to advance. So,
Okay.
so that's going to be how they run it this time. And then, of course, you need multiple crews in multiple conferences because we don't know who's going to end up in the semifinals or the finals. We will still not be working our own teams games. So that's why they need multiple crews with 12 playoff games or 12 teams in the playoffs, I should say. Yeah.
Oh, that's yeah. That makes a lot of sense, and we kind of run the same way here in the high school level. When we get to the bigger playoff games, we have a state assigner that's assigning us to those semifinals and championship games, just to try to have that anonymity between the two teams. You don't want any homer type of even the alleged homer type of calls to be said out there. I shouldn't say the homer calls because you and I both know we're not really rooting for anybody out there, but mom and dad in the crowd don't really sometimes know that. So
Yeah, no, that's so true. It's really just more of our own protection. You just don't want to be put under that scrutiny. But at the end of the day, we all know if you're an official, you're there because you have the highest credibility, the highest character, and you're there to do the right job. You're there to keep things fair. Basically, the bottom line. So that's why we do this. And but the perception is part of the reality, so we have to manage to that.
absolutely. So now I have here in my notes here about a Harvard Yale game that you worked. That was a pretty big turning point in your career. Do you mind talking about that for a little bit?
No, not at all. Yeah, it was actually my 12th FCS game. It was my 12th Division One game, and I was fortunate. I had a great crew all year. I was a referee back then. I had a great crew all year, and to be selected was quite an honor. I mean, everybody who knows college football or follows college football knows that that's known as the game, and it was at Harvard, which is a great place to get it. And like I said, first of all, I was blown away. I was never expecting that assignment, and then when I got it, it was just a tremendous feeling, and a great crew that went to that game and did the game, and I believe that game had to be played. Well, I mean, obviously it had to be played, but it was going to determine the winner of the Ivy League that year. So it was a great experience all the way around.
Oh, so not only just a huge rivalry, but also had a lot of implications going on with it.
Exactly, exactly. So,
Ah,
so, so
that's great
many
stuff.
great, so many great stories come out of that game. There was the 1968 game where they called it Harvard wins 29-29. You could look it up. It's an interesting story, but Harvard scored like I don't know how many points in the last 5 minutes of the game to tie it, so they called it the Harvard win. And I think Tommy Lee Jones, the actor, played in that game. Uh,
Oh
so uh,
wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So he was on the offensive line, I think. But yeah, it's there's some great stories. I know Game Day has broadcast from there on occasion. It's just a really important game in the whole scope of what college football is all about. Sort of like that 1869 Princeton Rutgers game. So it's an honor to be associated with it. That's for sure.
All right. So now you kind of segued yourself into that Princeton Rutgers game. You have any Rutgers or Princeton connections that we should know about?
Well, actually, I went to Rutgers, so I'm
There
a
you go.
graduate. I'm a graduate of Rutgers. Yeah, didn't play football though. Played on a baseball team, but I'm a graduate of Rutgers. So I like to when I'm with my fellow officials from Texas or California or Colorado. This year I'm with guys from California, Colorado, Texas, and Washington State. I like to brag about Rutgers starting college football.
There you
So,
go.
and I try to make them all Rutgers fans. Not too successful, but anyway.
Yeah, that could be a little tough, but this year's a whole nother year for Rutgers, so we're
Yeah,
looking for some positives out of our local team here this year.
yeah, yeah. It's just good for college football in general to see teams have success, and especially teams that have been around as long as they have. Um, uh, but they're in the Big Ten with and it's been a good thing for their program, so we'll see. It's not an easy conference to succeed in. Obviously, there's a lot of great teams, so we'll see how
Wow.
that goes.
Yeah, hopefully they for the local flavor, they hopefully they keep on doing what they're doing on the recruiting front and being competitive in that Big Ten conference is a win in its own right. But I know they got bigger aspirations than that. But like you said, it's a strong conference. So like all the conferences now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Big 12 is wide open. The SEC's growing. So yeah, it's very exciting. Clemson and Florida State are going to be very good in the ACC. There's a lot of great stuff the fans are going to get a lot of joy out of this season, I think.
That's good stuff. So, all right, Steve, kind of transitioning a little bit here now. You
Yeah.
you and I were text messaging a little bit earlier. Steve also does do a number of different clinics and stuff like that. Steve and I actually were initially supposed to get hooked up in a local clinic in this area. But he asked if he could share some clinic type stuff on the podcast, and that's what we're here for, to help educate people. So, Steve, I'm going to kind of pass the baton over to you, and I know you got some stuff that you want to share with all the listeners out there. So,
Yeah.
what do you got for us?
Yeah. So first of all, let me just start by saying, when I first started coming up through the chapters, chapter associations, and getting a lot of support from officials that came before me. So it was always drilled into us, and these are great officials, by the way: Tommy Hill, Eddie Camp, Al Hines. I mean, we were brought up to say, to basically be taught, you know, put your best effort forward, work as hard as you can, and you can accomplish what you want to in your career. But when you do get there, give back. So it's always been my desire to help train and mentor younger officials. Um, we want. I've spoken at many clinics as a clinician, usually working with the short wing position, which is my position since I've been in the FBS, and I want to grow that, but there's also a lot of clinics talk about specific plays. They have the breakouts. They talk by position. They talk about the new rules. They show film, and they break things down. But there's a lot of what I'd like to add to the clinics is, how do I conduct myself in my career? How do I grow my career? What do I need to do the right things to make sure that I'm having these opportunities to grow and elevate? There's a lot of different levels you could be working, and whether you're working, whatever level you're working, officiating is a great avocation, and it's the most important game of the day. When you're doing that game, it's the most important game, no matter where you are. But
Yep.
we don't really, it's kind of like when you first come out of college and you get your first job. How do I tie my tie? It's sort of like that. We don't have enough of that, so I like to add that into the clinic agenda. Talk a little bit about things that you should be focused on. Of course, it's a given. Have rules knowledge, know the mechanics, have good judgment, etc. But some of the nuances to advance. But speaking about what are some of the clinics that are going to be talking about this year, and I just came back from our Big 12 clinic. The NCAA has a lot of. They didn't have a lot of new rules. In fact, there's only just a couple. Horse collar tackle in the pocket being one of them. They're going to now go to more like an NFL look with coach to player communications in the helmet, and iPads on the sideline, and which they have a little restriction on with officials for that, and then the 2 minute timeout, which is like the 2 minute warning, although they call it
Yep.
the 2 minute timeout, and so that changes the 10-second runoff rule a little bit. So really, there wasn't a lot of rules, but the focus this year to clean up the game and make it a little bit better, entertainment-wise, and a little more fair, is what we've been dealing with for the last several years, and that is pre-snap stuff. So it's going to be very interesting for the fans this year to see how teams adjust to that, because there's been a lot of scheming of offensive shifting and defensive stemming and stuff. So there's going to be some adjustments. And right now, what's happening, and this is almost like clinic type talk, is crews are going out. Like I just mentioned, I'm going to Baylor. Crews are going out to their respective schools, no matter what level they're at, and they're officiating these scrimmages and having conversations with coaches and talking about how things are going to be called. That pre-snap focus this year, point of emphasis, is going to be something we really need to work early on in the season to clean it up, so that we have a very smooth flowing season, game after game. And if you're not familiar with what the pre-snap focus is, it's really putting the defense at the same standard of the offense. Not necessarily calling it the same foul, but any sort of stemming that has any sort of what we would call simulation of a snap that the defense does. we're going to shut it down and call it DOD, delay on the defense. But it's similar to be called like a false start, shut down, and that stemming is going to be gone. The clapping is going to be gone. We're going to shut all that down now. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these play out. But these schools should be rehearsing that now in their camps and be prepared for that new focus point of emphasis in the NCAA. And it has
Okay.
caused a lot of concern. So they're fixing that. So that's great. That's something that we would talk about in a clinic, for example. How we're preparing ourselves for the season. What are some of the things we need to focus on, et cetera. And so that's just one of the many ways that you could help mentor officials.
Oh, that's good stuff. That's definitely good stuff. And I know here with the high school level, we're definitely trying to clean that stuff up, especially on the defensive side of simulating the snap and calling out the cadence. I'm an umpire, so I'm in the middle of the field. So there's sometimes I think I hear D linemen saying stuff, but with mouthpieces in and different things like that,
Yeah.
some stems that you're talking about, and for those that are the casual fan, a stem is just basically a shift of the defensive line and linebackers. So just trying to get into a different position to kind of throw off a blocking scheme. But sometimes they'll call out shift, or they'll call out a code name that kind of resembles what the offensive cadence is, and now all of a sudden you have an offensive lineman that's jumping offside. So trying to clean that stuff up.
Yeah,
So
I queued up the CFO video in case we want to get to it, just to show you a couple of things. But that's exactly right. And there's a lot of zone blocking now, zone reads and stuff. So and all week long teams practice. Where you've got the guy head up or in the gap, the A gap, B gap, whatever. That's why they stem. They want to, as you said, confuse the offensive blocking schemes.
Yep. So now I got a quick question, kind of a little bit off topic, but when you're talking about simulating a snap and stuff like that, the same penalty can be called now for the offensive, especially the quarterback, for simulating a snap.
That's correct.
And you see it with the big head bobs and stuff like that, trying to draw a team off to get that easy 5 yards and to get that first down.
Exactly.
What's your opinion on the clap and the fake clap, more so for the snap?
So there's a few things they're gonna focus on this year on the offensive side of the ball. Number one, if the defense jumps into the zone and there's not an immediate reaction by the offense, this is something they've been doing, and then and the defense gets back and then the offense reacts, we're going to put that on the offense. That was something that they saw, that it was not a reaction to the defensive player jumping. It was really more of a chance to try and grab a quick 5 yards. That's the one.
Yep.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you clap and there's no snap, especially if anybody shifts, and it's abrupt, we're gonna shut that down as a false start. They want to get that out of the game as well. And then the third thing is, in a lot of these environments that we're working in now, with noise levels, et cetera, there's a lot of silent counts, and so you
Yes.
see a lot of the guard flashing his hand to the center, and that's like the timing to say, all right, we're ready to snap this ball. But you also see a lot of times the center ducking his head, as signaling to the lineman to the opposite side of where that guard flashed his hand, which is fine. But what they're saying is, all right, we're going to snap the ball, but now they want to clean this up. If he bobs his head and then doesn't snap it, we're going to put that on the offense as well. So they're trying to clean up all that gaming type stuff. Abrupt going down into a 3-point stance, which you see on 4th and 4s, for example, or in field
Yes.
goals with 4th and 3s, and then they're in a 2, and then somebody yells out a cadence, and they go hard down into a 3, gaming the system, shutting that down, putting that on the offense. So again, there's just trying to make this game a lot cleaner and a lot easier to officiate too, quite frankly, because we didn't know what to do in past years sometimes when the defense jumped and then the offense slowly reacted to it, or, whatever. It was so arbitrary, so subjective. They're cleaning it up and making it a little tighter for us, which is great.
Yeah, it's definitely, and that makes it going to be a lot easier for you consistency wise, so that when you're following another crew up, it makes your job a lot easier, because so many times, and this is the human element that we're all still dealing with, but you go to one game and they're like, well, the crew let us get away with that last year or last week. Why are you calling it on us? So having those things tightened up, really, it does make a big difference for us on the field. So
And you said the magic word there. It's the consistency part. When I said we didn't know what to do, it was from one official to the next, from one game to the next, from one conference to the next, one crew to the next. We were all subjectively and making decisions based on what was presented to us. This sort of point of emphasis is going to make it. It's going to define it a lot tighter, so that we should all be more and more consistent across the country. And that's the most important thing, really.
So now another question, again, a little bit off of our topic here, but me still being at the high school level and all the high school kids trying to emulate what's going on in the college level. Do you mind if we talk quickly about uniforms? Because it's actually a point of emphasis right now for the NFHS with the uniform stuff. And I know the mouthpieces and stuff like that, where the kids are having a secondary mouthpiece. What we were just told at our clinic, there is no second mouthpiece. You have to have that mouthpiece attached and it has to be in your mouth. You can't have a second one dangling. For God, I have no idea what reason that is, that status, or having the mouthpiece in the helmet.
Yep.
Yep. Is there anything that's being discussed at your level with stuff like that? Because, again, a lot of the high school kids are kind of grabbing that stuff from them.
Mouthpieces, not as much, but the shorts that they're wearing where their knees are not covered. I'm glad they took it out of our hands. It's just something that with all the other things that we have to focus on and such, uniforms is not something we want to police, and so the conferences will deal with it, and we may have to write up something. Certainly in warm-ups, if we see something, we'll call it out to their coach to see if they can clean it up. But at the end of the day, it's on them. It's not on us anymore, thank goodness.
Now I'm just
Again,
and my question. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So my question.
Go right ahead.
My question that I have is today, with all the NIL stuff and looking at the NFL with what they have, quote unquote, the fashion police. I don't know that you would be able to even give me this answer, but is there any possible idea that maybe they start fining the individual players if they're not up to code, being that the money's coming in? And again, I don't expect you to have an answer, but it's just something that swirls through my head about different things.
Yeah, I mean, now that they're paid, that could be something that they start to progress to as well. Yeah, we don't know. I mean, college football is in a constant state of change and flux. It's still a great game, and obviously, and it's
Absolutely.
tremendous passion for it. I mean, tremendous passion for it around the country, around the world. But I know that there's a lot of things that'll always come up year after year. They'll have to address. That's probably going to be one of them. But we'll see. Again, not something we have to worry about. Thank goodness the conferences will.
Yeah.
But they are talking about allowing some of that. They're even talking about allowing. I hope I'm not talking out of school here, but they even talk. I'll be more generic. They're talking about officials being able to have a sponsor on their jerseys to help with additional, I don't want to call it income, but additional revenue for the staff as a whole. We have what we call an association, the Big 12 Association of Officials. Actually, it's more than a Big 12. It's four conferences, or four conferences. The American rolls up under us, as well as the Southland, and I'm drawing a blank on the fourth right now. So we have a larger group of officials. So if they're going to allow it with the players, they're going to have to monitor it. They're going to just have to figure that out.
No, it makes sense. Then that's good stuff for you guys. So hopefully that is something that help with travel costs and different things like that too.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Yeah.
All right. So you had mentioned again pre-recording. You had some videos and stuff like that you wanted to possibly share with us. So
Yeah.
you want to share those away?
Yeah, I'll do a quick share really because it's about the pre-snap
Okay.
stuff I talked about. And let me just pull this up real quick, and I'll share it. And you may or may not hear Steve Shaw, but it's really not about hearing Steve Shaw. It's about what we're going to see right here. So right here is the editorial change that they really want to focus on the offensive side of the ball. Anything abrupt, quarterback making jerky movements like you asked me about with the head or clapping, snapper flexing or jerking their head, like I told you with the head
Yep.
dip. Um, uh, and there's a couple plays he puts on here that I'll run real quick for you. The clap signal to start the play with an abrupt and coordinated movements. This is all they're trying to clean up and get out of the game. And then you've got on the defensive side of the ball. Let me advance this a little further. There's going to be a screen for the defense. As soon as I
Okay.
can just find the where it was. I thought I had it on the right. There it is. On the defensive side of the ball, again, we're going to be held to if you read this first bullet underneath the paragraph, defense will be held to the same standard as the offense, simulating action at the snap. That's not always the way it was officiated. And actually, this terminology wasn't even utilized. The same standard. By the way, real quick for your viewers, especially if you're a younger official, you must have heard coming up through the ranks, this is our philosophy, this is our philosophy, this is our philosophy. Philosophy's out the window. The word of they're utilizing now is the standard. Officiating
Okay.
standards. So there's no more officiating philosophies, it's standards. Philosophy sounds more independent and more, singular. Standard is a standard that all officials need to hit.
Awesome.
So they're really utilizing the word standard now instead of philosophy. So you'll start to hear that more and more as you attend clinics, listen to older officials and more experienced officials. So that's something that's going to change in our vernacular. But anyway, so they really want to clean up this defense, and then they have defender shall use words no defender shall use words or signals that disconcert opponents, clapping, because the offense uses that in their cadence, etc. That was something that was a real problem. And again, very subjective. We couldn't tell if it affected the offense or not. Do we call it if there's no reaction? Should we call it if there's no reaction? And I'll tell you a story since you brought it up right in the beginning, about the national championship game. And that's actually in the training tape on a call I made in that game, which was, something we had prepared for and talked about for 5 weeks leading up to that game. Because that's another thing people probably would find interesting. When you're assigned the game, usually in the first or second week of December. That game's not played for another 4.5 weeks. So you need to stay focused. You need to stay sharp. You got to test yourself. You got to watch a lot of film. We had crew meetings, weekly Zoom calls just to get prepared. And that was one of the things we really talked about. And then when we got into Indianapolis on our pregame meetings, we had several each day. That was one of the things we want to clean up. And here it is, 2.5 years later. They really want to get this stuff because it's become more and more of a problem. And there's some plays in here. I hopefully they'll play for you that I'll show you. But this is what's going to be the reason why this is interesting, and the reason why I wanted to talk about it on your show is this is not something that's okay. So targeting. Replays involved, they're helping out with the call now, et cetera. It's targeting. It's been in the rule book for a while. It's been called now, et cetera. People are still certainly trying to get comfortable with it. They still don't understand what targeting is, et cetera. But we have replay trying to help, because it's such a bang bang situation.
Yep.
This is something that will be a little choppy in the beginning. So college football fans, high school football fans, I don't know if they're putting a focus on this at all, but football fans in general, stay with it, because there's going to be some growing pains with this, especially if the teams aren't taking it seriously right now in their camps. So I think this is something
Absolutely.
that I wanted to clear up for anybody watching, that, if you start to see some new, or I'll say less leniency on pre-snap stuff, this is why. And it's got to clean up the game to make it a lot better entertainment for the fans.
Yep.
Now, if we look at, and tell me if this plays, I'm just going to scroll to the defense. Legal movement by the defense versus illegal. So this is the type of stuff that, again, we want to clean up. You'll see that
Our first play, we want to look at a legal stem by the defense, a shift that does not simulate action at the snap and has no exaggerated movement. So we see just before the snap, 4 players along the defensive line. They're going to shift left in a coordinated movement, but the shift.
So did you hear that? And did it move for you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's the key. They're it's not abrupt. There's no herky-jerky movement in their arms, etc. And I'll show you that play and then contrast it with another play. This is the type of stuff they're trying to clean up. And of course, this makes it a lot easier for the officials, because it's less subjective when you see this versus when you see, say, this.
But it's a flinch by the wideout at the top situation. And we see that the defense, they quickly stem just.
See, this was a much different with arm movement.
Now, our first play is a 3rd-and-2 situation, and we see that the defense, they quickly stand.
You see the elbow flinch. You see the pointing. You see a lot of different things. This is what we're now going to put a zero tolerance on and shut this play down and put it on the defense. So this is the type of stuff when you're watching a game this year, you're going to wonder, whether the offense moved or not. Why did they have that call? This is why we're trying to get it out of the game.
Now, just to clarify, that the first play that we saw, would that be considered still legal with that stem, and this one is illegal?
Yes, because one was a very smooth side-to-side stem, no additional movements and abrupt movements versus something like this. So contrasting again, let me see if I could do this.
Exaggerated movement. So we see just before the snap, 4 players along the defensive line. They're going to shift left in a coordinated movement, but the shift is done properly, and it doesn't simulate action at the snap.
Okay, doesn't simulate action at snap versus this.
Doesn't. And we see that the defense,
you see all that quick, abrupt movement and arm movement, etc. That's going to be the defining factor. Okay, so go ahead.
At the high school level, no more doing that seat roll from a 3-tech to a 1-tech going across down the line of scrimmage anymore. So I don't know many teams that are still doing that, but I remember back in my day, that's how we stemmed.
Yep, I remember that. That's true.
Yep.
Yeah, that is true. There's a lot in scrimmage kicks too that they want to clean up. Actually, this is I'll skip to the scrimmage kicks. Let's see, this might be it right here. And again, I won't take much more time on this.
Exaggerated pumping motion
Let's go right to this.
Designed to simulate action at the snap and is a foul by the defense.
Okay, here's a punt.
Now, our 4th play, we see from the end zone view behind the offense, we see that number 36, he makes an exaggerated pumping motion simulating the start of the play, and it causes the offense to react. This is a foul by number 36 of the defense, as this action.
He didn't get in the zone. He didn't jump off sides, but he just did that type of movement, abrupt movement. Got to clean it up and get out of the game. Again, if you're a fan watching a game and you're wondering why we shut it down, this is why. They also want us focusing on, making sure formations are legal from the start, especially if we sense a gadget type play, or if we're in a scrimmage kick formation, and there's potential for fake. They want every formation to really be focused on starting legal. So here's one that, go ahead.
I just want to interrupt really quick, just to clarify now, with that last clip, and some people might not be able to watch the clips, or just listening. All the defensive player did was kind of did a little foot stomp, never crossed into the neutral zone, never did anything like that, but he simulated like he was going to be in an attacking fashion. If the offense doesn't move in that one, are you guys still shutting it down, even though the offense didn't bite?
Yes, because we're now applying the same standard to the defense that we would apply the offense. So that is correct. And the reason why is we don't really want, like they've already said to us, the game's in great shape from a number of fouls perspective. Look, my old boss, Terry McCauley, used to say, if it's a 30-foul game, it's a 30-foul game. If it's a 5-foul game, it's a 5-foul game. The way the players play is on them, not on the officials. However, the optimal is somewhere between 12 and 15 fouls a game. It's not like we're trying to hit that number, but that's what we like to see from a standpoint of legality and players, playing the game the right way. So we don't want to take this 12 to 15 fouls average and balloon it up to 25. So, but if we call it early, like the NFL does in preseason, we clean it up. We clean it up so that we don't see this type of movement. Hopefully, they're being cleaned up in scrimmages before the season even starts. So that's the point. And again, this is all because of fans. I want to bring this up because the officials and fans, will probably wonder why things are being called like this now that never were before. That's why it's a point of emphasis. I'm gonna skip to the clapping type foul they want out of the game.
Okay.
Real quick, and then I'll be done.
This is not normal and penalizes the defense for disconcerting signal.
Right here, let me back it up.
Defense is going to try to react, and we see number 4 of the defense, he claps in trying to get attention of other players. The crew properly shuts the play down and penalizes the defense.
Good example of no reaction by the offense, but he clapped, so they shut it down. You want to clean this up. Here's another one.
Of the defense is going to clap, and the snapper reacts to the clap and centers the ball to an unaware quarterback. This is a foul for clapping by number 16. And finally, we're going to.
Now, this is the national championship game I talked about. Now, what I have called, and good lesson for, I'm segueing a little bit here and there and I'm jumping around, but good lesson for younger
That's
officials.
fine.
Preparation, critical. Preparation for this game was dramatic. There was a lot of discussions, a lot of meetings for 5 weeks. But when we got to Indianapolis and we knew that the NCAA had a problem all year long with clapping and this type of disconcerting stuff, we said, not in this game. So would I have called this if we didn't prepare this way? I don't know, but I wanted to get out of the game early. As you can see, it's still the first quarter, and this is, I think, the first time Georgia had the ball. Okay, so you'll see. I'll let this play, and then you'll hear what Steve Shaw has to say.
We're going to see that the linebacker, number 10 here, he's trying to signal other teammates, and the crew shuts the play down. And as we take a look at the replay, we see number 10 is not making a hand-to-hand clap, but this was action that created a clapping sound. And by rule, the defense cannot use signals that simulate the sound of the cadence of the offense. And so the offense is using a clap. So this is a correct call for delay of game on the defense for the clapping sound.
So that's what they're trying to clean up. And then in the offensive side of the ball, I'll just show you one play because it's really illustrative of what you asked earlier with respect to clapping by this quarterback and no snap. Okay, so let's look at this play right here. Keep your eye on the quarterback, and you'll see what happens.
The offense has the Wildcat quarterback in, and number 11 quickly starts in motion. The quarterback claps.
Okay, you see that action? A clap with an abrupt movement for a shift. So this is what they want out of the game. Let me go back and see how far that goes back.
Yeah, so again, for the people that can't see it, what's going on here is you got a motion guy coming for almost what looks like it's going to be a jet type of motion going across the field.
Right.
And the clap happens, and on the clap, looks like the tight end and wing from one side shift over to the other side, but the ball's never snapped, and the defense has looked like 2 or 3 guys that crossed into the neutral zone.
That's correct.
Now, at the high school level, once they cross into the neutral zone, we're shutting it down for encroachment penalty. College right now, they are still eligible to get back before the ball is snapped, before they're offsides. But now you guys are shutting that down right away, and that's going to be on the offense.
That is correct. And it's not just a shift by the, as you put it with the wing and the tight end. It's really more of an abrupt movement
by the offense.
So if you
now, the first play, we've
those
got a
who can see, you'll
4th and 1
see how
situation.
abrupt they move.
The offense has the Wildcat quarterback in, and number 11 quickly starts in motion.
So
the
they
quarterback
jump back
claps,
and they
the
move
tight
their
end and
arms.
H-back abruptly shift in sync with the clap. This draws the defense into the neutral zone, no contact, but this is a foul by the offense. This clearly simulates action at the snap and is a foul. In our second play, the quarterback is under center. The offense rapidly shifts, and even though the linemen are in a 2-point stance, this clearly simulates action at the snap, and this is a foul on the offense. In our last play, we've got another 3rd and 3 situation. The quarterback is under center, and he's going to give a strong head bob. And the tight end H-back draft with the head bob.
So there's your head bob question,
This
Mike.
is another play.
And that's what they're trying to clean up. Right there. So this is going to be, you'll see a lot more calls early in the season, hopefully not late in the season. Hopefully they clean it up. But this is going to be a very big part of college football early in the season. And anyway, that's why I want to bring it to your attention. And I think it's good because it's going to make the game better, especially as the season goes along and for future seasons. So I just wanted to share.
Now, what position is predominantly going to be making that call? Is it going to be you guys at the short wings?
That's good. That's a good segue into what I wanted to talk about next, which was crew communication. So the short wings are going to have, the widest guy potentially moving or defense jumping in. We're not going to, we may not see, or we'll see the center on a maybe jerk the ball or his head bob, etc. We'll see a lot of that, but the umpire and the center judge are going to come into play here, more the umpire than anything. And what you'll see is people shutting it down, officials shutting it down, probably the short wings or the umpire, depending on who they thought moved first. But when you have multiple flags, the most important thing is hold the preliminary signal, run to each other, and communicate. what happened first, what was the action you saw, what was the action I saw, so you could properly enforce it on the right team that deserves the foul. So it's going to be
Yep.
crew communication working together, the umpire, the short wings, and maybe the center judge, like I said. But it's not going to be just, you know, throw the flag, give the preliminary, and move on. There's going to be some communication that's going to have to take place between the crew, and that's important. As far as the formations, another part of important crew communication, which came into play last year, and we allow for, unlike the NFL, we allow for uncovered, unbalanced, uncovered number 77, for example. But
Yep.
what we need to utilize the O2Os more for are that type of situation where I've got two on my side of the center. I'm radioing over to my partner across the field. I've got two. He's coming back with I've got four. And we know we've got seven on the line then. Four from his side of the center, two from my side, plus the center, seven. We're good. Okay. So, because a lot of times they're lining up in formations that are designed to be legal but deceptive. And then they come out the next time in a similar formation, but it's not legal, and they deceive the defense. So that's why they want us to focus on formations next. For example, they might come out with two wideouts covering one, the outside receiver covering the inside receiver, and one doesn't go beyond the line of scrimmage on a pass, or it's a run play. It's a run play, and these two wide receivers are tasked with getting downfield to make a block. And I could stop sharing, by the way. Let me stop sharing because how would I stop sharing? Okay. Well, anyway, let me finish the point. So that's play A. Okay. The next play, they might give you a blade of grass, but it looks like the same formation. And now this guy goes out for a pass, nobody covers him.
Yep.
So they don't want that no man's land receiver anymore. We want to clean that up. So no more no man's land stuff. And again, this is designed to clean up any sort of deception that the offense is trying to put out there against the defense with respect to formations. So formations is another thing you're going to see early on in the season, officials getting involved and either shutting it down or not shutting it down, making a call or at least we'll be warning teams, warning coaches that formation's got to be cleaned up. And so that's an important thing. And I don't know if you have this problem in high school, but I'll bring this last point up. Another thing they want us to clean up is the center moving the ball forward before when he gets on over the ball and then moves it forward a half a yard. We want to shut that down and warn and move the ball back, especially if he puts it on the line to gain or on the goal line.
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah, we definitely have that problem. More and more of the centers are not picking the ball up, but they're definitely just shuffling the ball a little bit forward.
Yeah.
So it is something that, again, me as the umpire, I'm right over them. I'm kind of gauging it how I'm going to give each team a series to see what both teams are doing, because a lot of times it doesn't come down to it. But when you're talking about getting it to that line to gain or getting it into the end zone, that does make a huge difference for it right then and there. So that's where the game of inches comes into play. And we talk about it openly as umpires. If it's a change of possession, if it's a punt, we're going to put the ball on the tick mark because those inches typically don't really add up. But now when you're in mid-series, that does start to add up. So we definitely got to be more aware of that.
Yeah, and another thing that was put officials, especially short wings, in a tough situation is the center moves the ball up, and now we've got defense off sides. We ignored it because we know he was put off sides by the center moving the ball forward. That's why they want us to shut it down, adjust the ball, and put a warn on there because we don't want to.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's another reason. So if you see that in your games, the center moving the ball forward, I don't know what they're going to do in the high school association, but if you're putting a defender off sides, it's really not fair to put the foul on the defense. We'd have a coach behind our head saying, "Hey, the defense is off sides," and at the end of the day, we're still saying, "Yeah, but your center moved the ball forward." Well, then why did you let that play go off? So we're going to shut it down and warn and move the ball back. That's important.
Oh, that's great stuff.
Yeah. So, again, another attempt to clean the game up and make it more fair, make it more enjoyable to watch, make the teams be more legal, stop with the gaming of the system, and that's going to be important. So what does that mean? That means better crew communication, which has always been very important. That's why they gave us O2Os back in
Yep.
2013 or whenever it was. Okay, and that's why uh, coaches communication is so more important then. And I'll go back to the clinic scenario. Another thing that I think we need to start teaching more of in the clinics, and I intend to in mine, is communication. We were coming up when we were learning how to officiate. We always went to what? We went to rules classes. We went to learn the rule book. We want to know the rules. Then we would mix in mechanics. I had some great teachers. I had legends in New Jersey, Edgar Cartato and Bobby Lynch. Okay, were my instructors when I was in high school. God rest their soul. And Eddie Camp is another one that does a great job teaching the association in high school here in New Jersey.
Still does.
Yeah,
Yep.
there you go. Okay, so you're learning the rules, you're learning the mechanics. We mix all that in, but coach communication, crew communication is something you got to learn at the stadium, at the fields, in your scrimmages, and that's very important. And I think I will put coaches communications for the two deep and the two short wings as the most important thing to be good at.
Yeah.
The other stuff is table stakes. You got to learn to be a great communicator with coaches, because you got a lot of things like this you got to be talking about that I just went through. Pre-snap stuff. They're trying to make decisions on a fly on whether they want to take a penalty or not. You got to communicate that. They might have a question of why that was called. You got to communicate that. And you don't shy away from communication. You encourage it. You go for it. Go look for it. Seek out the coach if you have to try and clean things up. One little tidbit. I wrote down here on one of my topics, fun stories. This isn't a story per se, but I've always told younger officials this. Anything that you could fix on Saturday with the coach by communicating saves him a phone call to your boss on Monday. So the more you could talk
That's so true.
and clean it up on Saturday, first of all, he's going to be impressed with you. Okay. He's going to feel confident in you. You're going to have a lot of credibility because you don't shy away from communication. But on top of that, there's going to be, now he'll still make some phone calls to the bosses. I get it. But the more you can clean up on Saturday, the better chance you have of not having him make a phone call on Monday or sending him plays. So, so that's just something that is just got to be part of your game. And if you want to progress in your career, which we've been talking about throughout, learn the communication skills for coaches' communications. And what does that take? It takes confidence. But that's the obvious statement, confidence. You got to have confidence. You got to have confidence you're doing the right thing. But we also know that officiating is not an exact science. There are going to be situations where you make a mistake. You still remain confident. You got to be confident when you're wrong. Not confident that I was wrong, but confident that I made a mistake and I could tell the coach I made a mistake and we'll clean it up and not go in the tank after that, because you know you're good and you're confident.
Yep. And you're owning it. So, I say that all the time because I was in the coaching spot for so many years, and I know I made some bad calls on the coaching side. I know I put my players in bad positions, and then I owned it instead of saying, oh, well, it was his fault, it was that fault. So same thing on the official side. You miss a call, coach, I missed that one, I blew it. We'll keep an eye on it, and that tends to, I don't like using this term, shut them up, but it tends to get them back on your side a little bit more, so they're not riding you the whole time. Where, coach, I called it because that's what I saw, and well, no, that's now you're kind of creating a more hostile environment with them. So, like you said, you can get a lot more stuff accomplished, and it'd be a much smoother game with just having that open line of communication with the coaches.
Yes, and it starts with listening. There's a guy out there that I love, and he's a motivational speaker, and he's a former Blue Angels pilot, and I use a lot of his stuff that he puts out there to prepare for this, because there's really a lot of similarities between a Blue Angel set of 6 jets flying in unison and a crew of 6 or 7 working in unison on a field. And so one of the things he says is there's 4 types of listening, and the number 3 and number 4 are the most important ones. One is listening to appreciative listening, and one is listening to understand. And if we can get to levels of 3 and 4, appreciative listening and listening to understand, you will be able to communicate better with coaches, because you'll hear them out. You'll understand what they're dealing with. Okay, you got to appreciate their pressure they're under. You got to understand what their concern is, and then you'll have better answers. If you try to cut them off or jump to conclusions, or you're not listening and you're just waiting for them to stop talking so you could talk, you're going to say the wrong thing. And you might even say something that he didn't even need to hear. So it's just, you got, communication is so critical in what we do today in this game. And it starts with listening. Hear them out, and then like I said, there's a lot of things I cover in my clinics about communication, and a lot of tricks of the trade, which we can't go into now. But when it comes to communication, learn that skill and learn it for you. I can't be Mike D'Ambrosio, and you can't be Steve Matarante. I'm going to communicate to the coach like I'm Steve Matarante because I am. You're going to communicate as Mike D'Ambrosio because you are, and that's important because I'll come off fake if I'm trying to be somebody else. So
Correct.
you want to be credible. So again, I
Oh,
can't
absolutely.
have crew communication and coaches communication, sideline communication is so critical. And your bosses, your supervisors will know that you're good at it because coaches will explain, I had great communication from my sideline officials this week, and they'll tell the supervisor that, and that'll help you progress in your career. Again, all coming back to the same theme. Give me the 2-minute warning when we're coming to an end, because I do want to cover two things quickly on some things about my, what I've experienced in my career and stuff. But let's keep going. As you have
Yeah,
questions you want to.
we're getting close to that to the hour mark here, so
Okay.
but I'm open for anything.
Okay.
This is great stuff, and it's definitely helpful information.
Yeah, I mean, so how do I progress in my career? So this is what I wrote: get to clinics. Get to clinics and find out. I mean, I know it's costly, but get to clinics. Find out if supervisors are going to be there from the clinics. A lot of times, these clinics will put out their agenda and they'll put in the guest speakers, the clinicians. Try to go with a couple of people, especially if you got to stay overnight. You share the room cost or whatever. But get to clinics. Listen to a lot of different standards that are being taught by different officials, NFL officials, college officials, supervisors, etc. Number one. Number two, watch a mountain of film. That was a Mike Pereira line. Watch a mountain of film. Just keep watching film. Keep
Like it.
watching film. And then third, group study. Get involved with other officials if you can. And now with the technology of Zoom, and you don't have to get to somebody's house. That's how I came up. We used to go to people's houses. You probably know some of these names: Phil DiDomenico, Jerry Hughes. We'd go to the house and we'd study together. We'd talk philosophy, even maybe watch some film. I said philosophy. We talk standards. Back then we talked philosophy. Now we talk standards. And group study, group conversation, even crew meetings, very important. Preseason and during the season, I think it's very important. And again, somebody lives in Hawthorne, somebody might live in South Jersey. You work at a game together. That's why God invented Zoom. All right, so
Yeah, you're right.
So that's that. You just do it that way. No excuse for not being able to communicate in today's world. The other thing that I would say is, I don't think self-promotion's all that great of an idea, because you can rub some people the wrong way when you're trying to move up in the ranks. But certainly put it out there that your desire is to grow and become to achieve the highest level you can achieve. And you'll find ways and you'll find opportunities, and everybody's got their own way of doing it, and that's important. Real quick. Football officiating, I used to teach this. I didn't teach. I was a guest lecturer year after year at Rutgers in a class that was called Techniques of Officiating Sports. And it was a summer class, and it was mostly the athletes that are there, training for their fall sports. And they would have this class. And I was good friends with the professor. And so he would invite me in to speak one night every summer to talk about what officiating is all about. Officiating is a tremendous way to stay involved in sports, or a sport that you love, that you played, and maybe after your career is over, you can get involved in it. One of the players that was in one of my lectures was Nate Jones. He's now an NFL official. I think it's his 5th or 6th year. He was a player at Rutgers University. He's now an NFL official. Yep. But it's great for a lot of reasons. Number one, you're part of something that's part of the fabric of America. All right, you can't have a game without officials. It doesn't count. Okay, so you really play an important role, but you also build relationships, whether it's with coaches, players, officials, what have you. I've been working for the New York Giants for 20-something years, 25 years, I think, this year, just throwing flags on them. I've been able to develop relationships with some of their players. It's just a great environment. And as many officials as there are, and I know probably there's a lot of young officials out there, I think that, how am I going to get discovered? There's thousands of officials. Trust me,
Yeah.
We're still a very small fraternity. It's just so unique what we do. It's just so unique. There's just not, I mean, how many times have you bumped into another official in another state? Very rare. You know, nobody even brings it up because it's so rare. Um,
Yeah.
in Europe, I worked with officials from 9 different countries, and now these are going to be like lifelong friends, and it was really cool. Finland, Serbia, Australia, England, France, Italy, Germany, Poland. It was just a tremendous experience, and they all have the same passion and the same desire to be good at what they do. And so it's just a tremendous avocation to be associated with, no matter what level you're working. And I'll just finish with this. I've been blessed because of what I said earlier, which is the people that came before me, that mentored me, that gave back to me, even though they were busy in major college or the NFL, they gave back. And I think as you progress, if I could tell you another thing to keep with you, as you progress in your career and you move up the ladder, always remember and this is an old saying, but always remember where you came from and help the people below you that are trying to get to where you are now. Okay, because giving back in this profession is so important, and we need officials.
Yep.
We need officials, and we need to make it. We need to make every official that we can as good as they can by mentoring, so they enjoy it, and it's something that they stick with. And obviously, the opportunities are tremendous. You know, that's what I got for you. I will tell you. I will come back to something real quick. The relationships that you're probably building at the high school level right now, which I started years ago on. I mean, these are people that are going to be at your Christmas celebrations. These are people that are going to be at your christenings, your weddings, and stuff. That's what's important, the relationships that we build as we come through something that's officiating a football game. And
Yep.
you go to war with these people, and you have this unique bond as a fraternity, and that's something that you should always take from what you're doing. So take the time to enjoy it with the people you're working with. Yes, you can focus on your career, but take the time to enjoy it and work with and enjoy the people you work with and build those relationships. The guy, some official you might be working with, maybe is satisfied with where he is, and you maybe want to move up to where you are. Maybe the line judge across the way, she might be looking to move up, and you're in that league already. Maybe you could help out, mentoring, whatever it is. Just be a part of the fraternity. Don't isolate yourself just to help yourself. Be a part of the fraternity and help everybody that you can. And I'll just finish.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
No, I this is the quietest that I've been on my podcast, so I appreciate that, because that was just that was a ton of it was great stuff. I mean, I can't continue repeating myself. That was extremely insightful, especially for you hit the nail on the head about giving back and still helping grow this sport and being involved in something that we love. And it's something that I keep on harping on. I got out of coaching and transitioned into the officiating world because of time restraints with my family.
Yeah.
I didn't have the time to put into the coaching aspect that I would need to, but now this keeps me involved in the sport that I love. And I'm still helping young kids out and young kids develop in the sport too. So it's something that I've always cherished, and I'm hoping with this podcast that I'm in turn helping other young officials out there and continuing to grow too. So, but Steve,
Yeah.
once again, I appreciate you taking the time today. That was awesome.
No, I'm happy to be a part of it, and thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yep. So putting the hands together and saying the prayers that the Verizon gods didn't completely mess up our recording here. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, I got Steve Matarante on. Thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to send me an email, MikeDThereferee@gmail.com. hit like, hit subscribe, follow all those different things so that we can keep on, again, moving those algorithms, which I have no clue what the hell they actually mean, but to try to get some more exposure for all of us out there so we could try to get the sport continuing to grow. So once again, Steve, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
You too. Thank you again for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
If you're enjoying today's show and you want to show your appreciation to Mike D, you can buy him a beer by clicking on the link in the show notes or go to buymeacoffee.com/Mike D the referee. And as always, make sure to click follow and give 5 stars. Thanks for listening. Cheers.